The perfume was still in the air when Marina stepped onto the cold bathroom floor, sandalwood and vanilla. She never wore that combination. Her fingers trembled as she held the white towel against her wet body, droplets of water running down her neck. Forming small rivulets that found themselves between her breasts. The steam from the shower slowly dissipated from the fogged mirror, like ghosts disappearing into mist, revealing a word written on the surface with a wet finger. "Thank you." Marina felt her heart stop, her blood freezing in her veins as she fixed her eyes on the dripping letters. The perfect cursive handwriting danced among the trails of condensation. Someone had been there, right there, in that little sanctuary, where she considered herself safe. Inside your apartment, inside your refuge. As she showered, as she hummed distractedly, as her shoulders relaxed under the hot water. The sound of soft scratching came from inside the bathroom cabinet. Slow, methodical, like long nails against old wood, as if something alive was trapped inside trying to get out. Marina held her breath, pressing her bare back against the locked door, feeling the cold metal burn her damp skin. The sound stopped abruptly. A silence more terrifying than any noise took over the environment, filling the small space with its suffocating presence. She gripped the handle of her hairbrush like an improvised weapon, her knuckles turning white from squeezing. The hot water still ran down the drain in scattered drops, creating a grotesque soundtrack to his growing terror. Ping, ping, ping. Each drop marking the time of your agony, like a clock counting down your last seconds of innocence. The scent grew stronger, closer, more oppressive, as if someone had sprayed more into the air, saturating every available molecule, sandalwood dominating vanilla. Marina knew this fragrance. He could close his eyes and see her now. His grandmother sitting at the antique dressing table, spraying herself with the same perfume, the same one she used until the day she was found dead, in circumstances that the police were never able to clarify. The same grandmother who, in her will, left Marina this penthouse apartment. The apartment where she was now trapped, half naked and paralyzed by terror. The mirror began to defog naturally, and another word appeared beneath the first. The old dirty paint showing like a fresh wound. Always. Marina felt bile rising in her throat, burning like acid, the bitter taste of fear taking over her mouth. The letters were not written on the outside of the mirror. She realized this with sickening clarity. They were inside him, engraved on the inside of the glass. How long had those words been there, patiently waiting for the steam to be revealed? How many times had she bathed there without knowing she was being watched by invisible eyes? The door handle turned slowly, the sound of snotty metal cutting through the silence like a knife. Testing. Once. Twice. Someone on the other end, whispering in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Marina, you finally found my messages." The voice was female, smooth as silk, familiar like breathing, impossible like resurrecting the dead. The lights began to flicker erratically, producing a show of dancing shadows. In the intermittent darkness, Marina saw a shadow move beneath the crack in the door. Two bare feet projected into the leaking light, small ones, delicates like a child's, or your grandmother's when she was still alive. The scratching in the closet began again, more urgent now, more desperate. Accompanied by low laughter, a morbid choir of voices overlapping in macabre harmony. All known, all impossible, all dead. The scent exploded in one last suffocating wave, filling his lungs, invading every pore. And in the mirror, one last message appeared, the letters materializing like blood in water. "We are waiting for you." Marina pushed the bathroom door open, almost jumping out, the still wet towel stuck to her skin. The hallway was dark. Only the light from the room filtered through the cracks in the walls, creating elongated stripes on the wooden floor. The perfume followed with her, inseparable, like an invisible serpent coiled around your neck. His bare feet were stepping on something cold and slimy. When he looked down, he saw white rose petals scattered across the floor, each one perfectly arranged, forming a path that led to his bed. White roses, your grandmother's favorites. Marina followed the trail, mesmerized. The petals were wet, freshly plucked, Each step left a milky footprint on the floor, as if stepping in raw milk. The smell of roses mixed with the lingering perfume, creating a nauseating cocktail of beauty and rot. The bed was untouched, exactly as it had been left in the morning, but on the pillows was a music box, the same one your grandmother kept on the living room shelf. The half-open lid revealed a broken dancer, with no left arm, still spinning in spasmodic movements, the music playing at the wrong speed, out of tune, grotesque. "How did you get here?" Marina whispered to the cashier, as if she could respond. Next to the box, a note on parchment paper, with the elegant handwriting that Marina knew by heart. The same handwriting as the letters her grandmother wrote before she died. The same one that said, "Marina, the apartment has eyes. Everything you do here I see. Everything you hide I know. Are you wearing my nightgown now, the blue one with embroidery?" "Yes, I can feel it." Marina looked at her body, at the towel she was holding. The blue nightgown was hanging on the hook behind the bathroom door. She had thought about taking it but decided not to use it. How did anyone know his thoughts? A noise came from the kitchen, the creak of a drawer being opened, then closed, the clinking of cutlery. Someone was preparing something. Marina grabbed the knife she kept under her bed, a secret no one knew. His heart was beating so hard, it felt like it wanted to jump out of his chest. He walked down the hall, knife held out in front of him, drops of water still falling from his hair. In the kitchen, all the drawers were open. Knives, spoons, forks, all arranged on the counter, forming one word: you. The material glittered in the dim light, looking like sharp teeth arranged in a monstrous grin. The refrigerator creaked, not the engine. The door was opening on its own, inch by inch. The interior light blinked, then went out completely. In the darkness, Marina saw eyes, dozens of them, cut out from old photographs. His own eyes at different stages of life, glued to the inside of the refrigerator. A note was magnetized on the door. "You always look at me when you open this, Marina. Now, I look back." The phone rang, the old rotary phone that she kept out of nostalgia. The ring was different, a double ring with a longer interval, like when someone was dying, like when they called her that morning to tell her about her grandmother. Marina hesitated. Each touch seemed more urgent, more insistent. She reached out with a trembling hand to answer, the knife still clutched in her other hand. "Hello?" Silence, just panting, feminine, arduous, as if it came from very far away or very deep. So, music, the same as the musical box. But it wasn't coming from the other end of the line. It was coming from inside his own apartment, from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the lining, from inside your own head. The phone slipped from his hand, dangling on its coiled cord, and Marina heard through the earpiece her own rapid breathing being relayed to her in echo. Someone was listening to her. Someone was repeating every sound she made, like an auditory shadow that followed her. On the kitchen wall, a sentence began to appear, written in condensation like on the bathroom mirror. "Are you alone, or are we together?" Marina backed away, tripping on the trail of petals that led back to her room. The apartment seemed to breathe with her. Her every whisper, her every movement, her every thought was being mirrored by something invisible, something that knew her better than she knew herself. The music from the box reached its climax, the distorted notes echoing off the walls like metallic screams. And then, Marina realized the most terrifying thing. The noise of the drawers hadn't stopped. There was still someone in the kitchen, someone she couldn't see even as silverware was moved, scratching the counter, forming new words. The smell of roses began to become sickly, as if the flowers were rotting at an accelerated rate. The petals on the ground began to darken, turning brown, then black. And on them, text began to appear in scarlet ink. Dates, addresses, names. A macabre list of information that Marina recognized. Places she had been, people she had spoken to, intimate details of her routine that she had not shared with anyone. The phone was still shaking, now emitting a continuous tone. The heavy breathing had given way to a low, guttural laugh that seemed to come not from the receiver, but from within his own mind. Marina ran to the front door, struggling with the lock. His hands were sticky from the crushed petals, slipping on the metal. The door wouldn't open. It was locked from the outside. Prey. She was stuck with that which watched her, which knew her, which imitated her with sick perfection. "Let me out!" she screamed, pounding on the door with her fists. And a voice, his own voice, answered from the other side. "Why leave, Marina? We are so comfortable here and you still have so much to see. If you've ever felt something or someone watching you while you shower, if you've ever found objects of yours rearranged without explanation, if you've ever heard your own voice saying things you never said, then you've already experienced the feeling that Marina is experiencing, and maybe you're not alone either. Comment below. I've felt it if you've had this experience. We want to know if we're in this building together." Marina was leaning against the door, the cold wood biting her bare back. His chest rose and fell in spasms, like a cornered animal. She had lived in this apartment for 3 months, 3 months of solitude that now turned out to be a grotesque illusion. The music from the box stopped abruptly, leaving a silence deeper than any darkness. In the silence, Marina could hear her own breathing, rapid, pathetic. And another thing, the sound of paper being crumpled. On the living room bookshelf among the framed photographs, her graduation, her 20th birthday, her with her mother last Christmas, Marina saw a photograph that didn't belong there. An old, faded, sepia-toned Polaroid. Herself, but it wasn't her. A child she didn't recognize, dressed in the same blue sweater that now hung on the bathroom hook. The child was holding a stuffed bear, the same bear that Marina kept in her closet, the one her grandmother had given her when she was admitted to the hospital the last time. How had that photo gotten there? Marina crawled over to the bookshelf, leaving a wet trail on the floor. He picked up the photograph with fingers that shook uncontrollably. On the back, a date, April 14th, 1997, the day her grandmother died. And a question written in pen. "Do you remember who took this photo?" Marina didn't remember. She was only 6 years old. Her parents had left her with a babysitter while they went to the hospital. The nanny had let her watch television late, had given her cookies before dinner. She had red hair. Marina remembered that. The rest was mist. The sound of paper continued, as if someone was leafing through a book. On the coffee table, a photo album had appeared. Moss green with silver edges worn by time, your grandmother's family album, the album that Marina looked for last month and couldn't find. He opened it in fear. The first few pages were blank, soot white, as if there had never been any photos there. But as I turned the pages, images began to appear. Not old photos, photos of her, from Marina, images she didn't remember being taken. Marina sleeping, Marina changing, Marina crying on the phone with her mother. Marina packing her suitcase to move into this apartment. Marina arriving here for the first time, looking at the place with naive hope. One photo in particular made her vomit bitter bile onto the Persian carpet. It was her in the bathroom last night, looking in the mirror, waving her hand at her reflection. Joking. Child again. The flash had captured her shy, secret smile, a smile that she only showed when she was absolutely alone. But she was not alone. Never was. In the background of the photo, reflected in the mirror, a spectral silhouette. A pale female form watching. The same shape that Marina had seen 1,000 times at the edges of her vision, in the reflections of the windows, in the shadows of the curtains, always dismissing them as products of their fertile imagination. Under the photo, a handwritten caption, Session 47. Marina discovers that playing is safer than crying. Session? What did this mean? Marina frantically turned more pages. More photos documenting her intimate life. Marina masturbating. Marina cutting her wrists with nail scissors at the age of 15, something she had never told anyone. Marina tearing up her mother's letter at 20, the letter that asked for forgiveness. And in each photo, the same silhouette, always present, always watching. On the last page, a photo that made her scream. It was from today, of her coming out of the shower, holding her towel, staring at the mirror in terror. The caption read, Final session. Marina finally sees us. The stuffed bear was on your bed now, not where she kept it in the closet, but nestled against her pillows, like a waiting lover. She hadn't put it there. As he got closer, He noticed that the bear looked different. Sewn to his belly was a small pocket, a pocket that had never been there. Marina's fingers went into her pocket and found paper. A letter. The last letter her grandmother wrote to her. The letter that Marina burned without reading on the day of the funeral, in anger and pain. But here it was intact, and with a handout. Dear Marina, when you read this, I will no longer be who I was, but I will be closer to you than I have ever been able to be. This apartment protects us. The women of our lineage do not die, dear. We transform. We become guardians. We become observers. We become one. Are you scared? It shouldn't be. I've spent your entire life preparing for this moment. Did you notice the patterns, the numbers, the perfume that always comes back, the song that never ends? These are signs, baby. Signs that you are ready. Your mother didn't understand. That's why she died in such a common way. But you are special. You always knew you were being watched. You always felt our presence. The apartment is just the beginning. Soon you will understand what it means to be chosen. With eternal love, Grandmother Isabella P.S. Look under the bear. With paralyzed hands, Marina turned the bear. In the background, a fresh seam. Inside, another note. In your bedroom closet on the 3rd floorboard from the wall, knock 3 times, just like I knocked for you when you were a kid, remember? To calm you down. Marina ran into the bedroom, the bear hugged to her chest. The closet was in the darkest corner, between the window and the wall covered in Victorian wallpaper, white roses entwined with thorns. The same pattern as the petals spread throughout the apartment. She knelt down, still wet from the towel, and counted the boards. 1, 2, 3. Knocked 3 times as instructed. The sound echoed hollowly, deeply. There was a pause. Then 3 knocks answered back, coming from below. Someone or something was under the floor. But Marina lived on the ground floor. There was no basement in this building. The boards began to creak on their own, as if someone was squeezing them from below. The creaking pattern was rhythmic. 3 fast, a pause, 3 slow. Like Morse code, like a sick pulse. On the wall, the paper began to peel off. Not in strips, but in shapes. The roses were peeling away from the paper, maintaining their 3-dimensional shape. One by one they floated to the ground, accumulating in a perfect circle around Marina. She counted 27 roses, the same number of steps that separated your door from the bathroom. The bear vibrated in his hands. Not alive, but as if receiving a signal. The vibration created a low, familiar melody. The music from the box, but this time the notes came from inside the animal itself. Marina opened her belly at the seam and found a small black device, a locator. She had been tracked the entire time. And then he realized. The bear had not been a gift from Grandma. It was a tool, an invisible strap that kept her connected to this place, this presence. The smell of roses began to change. Not sweeter, but acrid, chemical. The smell of formaldehyde. Like in the hospital, like your grandmother's wake. And with the smell, memories she had buried began to resurface. The red-haired nanny was not a nanny. It was a nurse. The hospital wasn't where her grandmother was. That's where Marina was. A 6-year-old child hospitalized after finding his mother dead in disturbing circumstances. Her grandmother had visited her every day, always wearing the same perfume, always bringing white roses, always leaving notes under her pillow before leaving. "You're remembering," a voice whispered. Marina looked up. In the old mirror in the closet, the silhouette was clearer now. An old woman wearing the same light blue dress that her grandmother wore the day she died, but it wasn't just her grandmother in the reflection. There were others. Dozens of women, all from different eras, all with the same expression, expectation. Marina backed away but tripped in the circle of roses. When he fell, instead of hitting the ground, he sank. The wood had turned into something soft, like mud, as if the ground had come to life and was swallowing her. He managed to get out, panting, only to see something disturbing. The walls were starting to bleed. Real blood, dark red, running between the roses on the wallpaper. But it was no ordinary blood. It was viscous, sticky, and contained small objects, strands of hair, nails, pieces of fabric, relics of bodies. The scent now pulsed through the air, each wave bringing a new memory. His mother, found in this same apartment 20 years ago, in the same fetal position that Marina now found herself in, with the same expression of terror that Marina feels deforming her face. The tracker on the bear began to emit a high-pitched sound. It wasn't just one sound, but overlapping voices, counting, regressively, in different languages, different timbres, but all feminine. 27, 26, 25, 24. In the closet, the third board stood up on its own. Underneath, an old diary bound in dark red leather. Your grandmother's diary. But not only. When Marina opened it, she saw that the pages overlapped in translucent layers. Dozens, hundreds of different diaries, all entries occurring in the same order, on the same dates, written by the same hand. The most recent entries. Day 1, Marina arrived. She doesn't realize that we all live this. Day 30, Marina found her first perfume, like her mother found it, like I found it. Day 45, Marina started seeing us in the mirrors. Denial. Normal. Day 89, Marina today for the first time considered moving. She's not going. None of us went. Day 92, Marina is ready. The bath, the messages, the awakening. And on the last page, something written in fresh ink. Day 93, Marina now understands. She is the 27th. The roses on the floor began to wither at an accelerated speed, turning black, dissolving into a thick liquid that flowed towards the corners of the room, forming the same symbols that Marina had seen in the messages, spirals, numbers, Latin phrases. She tried to run, but the liquid had congealed around her feet, binding her like tar. And then, through the window glass, because all the curtains had dissolved, Marina saw her neighbor in the building opposite. The woman had been at the window for hours, motionless, looking directly at Marina's apartment. For the first time, Marina noticed something terrible. The neighbor was wearing the same blue dress, and she wasn't alone at her window. There were other women behind her, all in blue, all standing still, all looking in the same direction. And their expressions, Marina recognized each one of them. They were the same expressions she had seen in the mirror. The blood on the walls began to stain the floor, creating a map, an architectural plan from the building, and in it, marks in each apartment, dates, names, ages, all women, all dead, all lived in the same apartment. And at the end of the list, a blank space, waiting for Marina Santos, 25 years old. The countdown on the bear has come to an end. At the last count, all voices pronounced the number 0 in unison, and then absolute silence, until, at the front door, there was a knock. 3 times, not from inside, but from someone wanting to enter. Marina looked at the mirror once again. Now she no longer saw other women. He only saw his own mother, young, 20 years old, the same blank look that Marina had encountered all those years ago. And now Marina understood. She was not the next victim. She was the next guardian. Of course you've got this far. You're not just a spectator. The 26 women who came before Marina also believed they were the only ones. Also that they were safe. Also that they were special. If your neighbor looks at you strangely from the window, if you've ever counted the steps of your house unconsciously, if you've ever found objects that you swear you kept somewhere else, if you've ever felt like someone is watching you when you're completely alone, then you could be next. Sign up now to see who's really knocking on that door, to discover that not every inheritance is a gift, to understand that some families have secrets that span generations. Comment Guardian 28 if you are ready to discover your true destiny, or silence your phone and pray, this isn't your story. The answer will be in the next episode. Marina approached the door, her legs moving of their own accord. There was no more fear, just an icy acceptance, as if a part of her always knew this moment would come. The bear fell from his hands but made no sound as it touched the ground. It was as if the sound itself had been sucked out of the apartment. The knocking on the door stopped. 3 times. the number repeated throughout the apartment. In your entire life. Marina placed her hand on the doorknob. It was scalding hot, boiling as if it had been heated to 1,000 degrees. However, his skin didn't burn. On the contrary, it absorbed the heat, the power. When the door opened, there was no one outside. Just an empty, dimly lit hallway. And on the floor, a photograph. A woman with red hair, the hospital nurse. But she wasn't just a nurse. Her badge was visible in the photo. Dr. Santos, Psychiatry. Marina's eyes widened. Your last name? The woman who had posed as her nanny, who had taken care of her when her mother died. Looking closer at the face, Marina recognized the same lines, the same bone structure. It was like looking at an older version of herself. Marina went back inside, closing the door behind her. The apartment was different now, more alive. The walls pulsed, breathed. The blood had formed symbols all over the floor, triangles inside circles, each containing the number 3. On the central table, an old television had appeared. No cables, no connection. The screen lit up on its own, hissing in static. The first image, Marina, aged 6, huddled in the corner of the psychiatric hospital, talking to myself, scratching the wall with her little nails until she bled, repeating, "She's calling me. I have to go back to the apartment." The image changed. Marina at 15, pressing a pair of scissors to her wrist, repeating, 27, 27, I'm the 27th. Another change. Marina arriving at the apartment 3 months ago. For the first time, but not really the first time. The look on his face was not one of discovery, but of recognition. The television turned off. On the black glass of the screen, another reflection. A middle-aged woman she recognized, even though she had never seen a portrait. His own mother, Clarice Santos, the victim she had found dead. "But you're not dead," Marina whispered to her reflection. His mother's voice responded, not from the television, but from inside his own head. "None of us really die, darling. We evolve, we transform, we become the apartment." The wallpaper began to move like living skin, opening into small slits, revealing eyes, hundreds of female eyes, blinking in sync, watching her, coming from inside the walls. "The apartment is us," her mother's voice continued. "Each of the 26 before you, your grandmother, your great-grandmother, the first of us, who built this place in 1895. Marina fell to her knees, the impact causing no pain. His skin was beginning to tingle, to change texture, becoming thinner, more translucent like wallpaper. In the living room mirror, she saw her own image being superimposed on the previous 26. Like a long-term photographic exposure, their faces merging into a single entity, all different but the same, all dead but alive. "Why me?" Marina asked, her voice no longer sounding like her own. "Because you heard the call," replied not one, but all voices together. "Because since you were a child you have seen through the veil. Because like all of us, you are special." Marina crawled to the window. On the other side, the neighbor was still watching, motionless. But it wasn't a person. Now Marina saw it clearly. It was a reflex, a mirror, a version of herself in another reality, in another apartment just like this one, living the same ritual in some parallel universe. The floor began to open up, the boards creaking and pulling apart. The third tablet now revealed not a diary but an abyss, a perfect hole that descended into infinite darkness. And from the darkness, voices called, all familiar. "It's time for you to come in, Marina," her grandmother's voice whispered. "To join us? To go deeper?" The stuffed bear, the piece that had connected her to this place her entire life, began to crawl toward the hole, as if pulled by invisible hands. On its belly, the tracker now glowed red, like a demonic eye. "We had to make sure you came back," his mother's voice explained, "that you would all come back. The bear is just a piece of the apartment, a piece of us, that you carried with you your whole life." Marina looked for the last time into the abyss, into the black hole beneath the third plank, and he understood. The hole didn't go down. It was inside, into her. The reflection in the mirror changed one last time. Now it didn't show any of the women. It showed a child, a girl with red hair, 6 years. with a new teddy bear intact, no seams, no locator. "Who is she?" Marina asked, her voice already losing its individuality, mixing with the chorus of whispers. "She is the 28th, they all replied. "She's waiting her turn, like you waited, like we all waited." On the wall, one last message appeared, not written in blood or condensation, but in pure light, tearing at the very texture of reality. "Welcome to your real home, Marina. Now you are the apartment." The hole expanded. What was once the size of a coin had now become an abyss that consumed half the room. Marina felt her body begin to change. She was no longer naked, she realized. Her grandmother's blue nightgown had materialized against her skin, the cold silk caressing her body like icy fingers. Little roses were embroidered on the sleeves, identical to those on the wallpaper. As she breathed, the embroidery moved, the flowers opening and closing on the fabric, as if they were also breathing. Her reflection in the mirror broke into 27 distinct fragments, each piece showing a different woman. Your ancestors, your guardians, your prisoners. "Am I going to die?" Marina asked, her voice echoing in the void. "Die? No." The choir responded, the voices like different instruments in a macabre symphony. "You will be released, just like we were." Marina's skin began to peel off into tiny fragments that floated in the air like autumn leaves. But there was no pain. There was no blood. Just a feeling of weightlessness, as if every piece she lost made her less material, more ethereal. "Absorb," the walls whispered. "Become." The fragments of her skin swirled around her, merging with the wallpaper, with the rose petals, with the droplets of blood that floated in the air. Marina looked at her own hands, now semi-transparent, the outlines of their bones visible through the translucent flesh. The abyss pulsed. From within him, the sound of a giant heart. No, not a heart. 27 hearts beating in perfect unison. "How long has this been going on?" she asked, not knowing if she was talking to the walls, the abyss, or herself. "From the beginning. Ever since." The voices responded, now sounding from inside his own throat. "Every house has a heart. Every building has a soul." Marina's eyes began to multiply, not physically but in perception. She saw the apartment from all angles at once. She saw herself from above, from below, from inside the mirror. I could see through the walls, see the pipes, the wiring, the empty spaces between the floors, but they were not empty. They were filled with memories, with whispers, with fragments of past lives. "People think houses are made of concrete and wood," his grandmother's voice echoed directly in his head. "But they're made of so much more. They're made of what we live inside them, what we die inside them." In the abyss, the teddy bear had transformed. It was now a living, pulsating creature, its plastic eyes glowing with malignant intelligence. Its cloth body was now filled not with cotton, but with something that moved and writhed. "Each guardian brings a new memory," his mother's voice explained. "A new power, a new eye for the apartment." Marina felt her thoughts fragment. His childhood, his memories, his fears, all separating like water into steam. Every drop of who she was being absorbed by the walls, the ceiling, the very air of the apartment. She was no longer standing in the room. It was in every room at the same time. It was all the rooms. His veins no longer carried blood, but rather the same dark liquid that ran down the walls. His heart beat in perfect synchronization with the other 26, forming a continuous chain of pulsations. In the mirror, he saw his face one last time. But his eyes were no longer his. They were the eyes of all those who came before, multiple, overlapping, infinite in a single face. A last bit of humanity remained. One last question that needed to be answered. "Why? Why are we doing this?" Marina asked, her voice now identical to all the others. The choir responded, 27 voices in perfect unison, his own voice now part of the harmony. Because someone has to watch, someone has to keep, someone has to remember. The abyss gave one last breath, then closed like a healing wound. The third board fell back into place, but now had a small dark red stain in the center, a rose-shaped stain. In the apartment, everything went back to normal. There was no blood on the walls. There were no petals on the ground. The wallpaper was intact, the roses perfectly still in their patterns. And Marina was everywhere and nowhere. His eyes were the windows, your ears, the walls, your heart, the apartment itself. In the center of the room, the phone rang again. 3 times, the double tap with the longest interval, the touch of death. But there was no one to answer. Just the apartment, just Marina, just the 27 guardians, now a single entity, a single living organism waiting. Outside, a girl with red hair approached the building. 6 years old, a teddy bear in her arms, the 28th bear with the 28th tracker. The doorbell rang. 3 weeks later. Detective Livia Campos adjusted her glasses as she double-checked the apartment number. 307, the same address that appeared on all the reports. It was already the 5th case in 3 years, 5 missing women, all with records of psychiatric problems in childhood, all aged between 20 and 30 years old, all without leaving a trace. The newspaper headlines had been brief. Another young woman disappears in historic building, as if Marina Santos were just a number, a statistic. Another woman to the pile of unsolved cases at the Missing Persons Center. What the headlines didn't say was that all the women shared the same last name. Saints, an ancient branched lineage, but always the same blood, and all of them, without exception, had passed through the Santa Rosa Psychiatric Hospital in their childhood. Under the care of the same doctor, Dr. Livia knocked on the door. Once, twice, 3 times. Nobody responded. The locksmith accompanying her looked uncomfortable. His hands shook as he struggled with the set of keys. "Have you been here before?" Livia asked, noticing the man's paleness. "No," he replied too quickly. "I mean, this is an old building. Lots of stories. You know how it is." "What kind of stories?" The locksmith hesitated, the key suspended in the air inches from the lock. "They listen," he murmured. "On the walls, always listening." Livia ignored the comment, attributing it to local superstitions. The locksmith finally opened the door but refused to enter, citing another urgent appointment. In the apartment, everything was impeccable. No signs of a struggle, no hint of any force. The bed made, the closets organized, the plants still alive. As if Marina had just gone out to buy bread and was going to return at any moment. On the coffee table, just one object out of place, the old telephone, off the hook. The wire was cut, purposely cut with something sharp. Livia photographed the scene, but when she checked the camera, all the images were distorted. Vacant faces where there should only be empty furniture. His assistant Lucas entered carrying boxes of files. "I found the previous cases," he announced, placing them on the table. "You won't believe this." The files detailed the disappearance of 4 women before Marina, all in the same apartment, all on the same day, April 14th, in different years. The anniversary of the death of Isabella Santos, the matriarch of the family, who had built this building at the end of the 19th century. "That's not all," Lucas continued, his tone lower. "I found the hospital's medical records. And all the women were treated by Dr. Santos. They all had the same diagnosis, environmental depersonalization disorder." "I've never heard of this diagnosis," Livia commented. "Because it doesn't officially exist, Doctor. Santos created it specifically for these patients. According to her notes, it was an altered perception of the physical environment, as if walls, floors, and objects had their own consciousness." Livia looked around. The walls of the apartment looked normal, static, dead. But something caught his attention. In the corner of the room, half hidden behind an armchair, a small stuffed bear, new, intact, without any signs of wear. Lucas consulted his files again. "Wait, there's something here about teddy bears. Every one of the missing women..." Livia no longer listened. Something on the wall had caught his attention. It wasn't visible to the naked eye, but when she took out her cell phone to make a call, the flashlight revealed for a brief second words etched into the wallpaper. Not written on him, but engraved from the inside out, as if someone were writing on the other side of the wall. "Saints, Guardians 28th. The phone rang. It was impossible since the wire was cut, But it rang anyway, 3 times, in the rhythm that the police recognized well, the ring that announced the discovery of a body. Livia answered. Static filled the air for 3 seconds. Then, a voice. No, not just one. There were many voices, overlapping, speaking in perfect synchronization. "You're next," said the voices. "The 28th. She will come to you. At the Santa Rosa Psychiatric Hospital, 30 kilometers away. Doctor." Elena Santos left her session with a patient, a 6-year-old girl named Livia Campos, and looked at her watch. Exactly noon. It was time. She opened her desk drawer and took out a new teddy bear. The 28th, with the same device on your belly, with the same invisible stitching, with the same purpose. "It's okay, dear," the doctor said to little Livia. "I have a gift for you today. Something special that will help you deal with your nightmares about the building and the women in the walls." The girl stretched out her trembling hands, accepting the bear. The object glowed for a second, reflecting the sunlight coming through the window. In his plastic eyes, the reflection of 27 women watching, waiting. Dr. Santos smiled, her eyes glowing the same deep red as the stains on the wooden floor of apartment 307. "One day," she whispered, "you will return to the apartment, and you will finally understand what it means to be a guardian." In the apartment, the bathroom mirror started to fog up on its own without any source of steam. On the surface, a message formed. "Welcome home, Livia, we're waiting." 2 months later. Again, the door to apartment 307 opened. This time, not for investigation, but for a new tenant. The building had been put up for sale after the conclusion of Marina Santos's case as an unsolved disappearance. Detective Livia Campos had requested leave. Psychological problems, the medical report said. Episodes of depersonalization, auditory hallucinations. She had been admitted to the Santa Rosa Psychiatric Hospital under the care of Dr. Elena Santos. The new tenant was young, red, long, wavy hair, delicate, almost childlike face. She carried only a small suitcase and clutched to her chest an old stuffed bear, worn by time but carefully kept. "It's a lovely place," commented the broker, handing over the keys. "Newly renovated. It doesn't even look like anyone has lived here before." "It's perfect," she replied, her gaze lost on the walls as if she recognized every detail, every corner, every shadow. The broker hesitated at the door. "Are you going to be okay alone?" The young woman smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. "I'm not alone, I never have been." When the broker left, she locked the door behind her. Once, twice, 3 times. He counted the steps to the bathroom. 27 exactly. In the bathroom, he turned on the tap and waited for the steam to fog up the mirror. In the steam, letters began to form. Not from the outside in, but from inside the mirror itself. "Welcome back, Livia." The young woman placed the stuffed bear on the bathroom floor. The torn animal had a scar on its belly, where a device had previously been. A locator removed. Freed. She took from her pocket a dark red lipstick, the exact color of the roses that once adorned the wallpaper in this very bathroom. With it, he wrote on the mirror about the message he received. "Thank you, Marina. Now I understand." The scent began to fill the air, sandalwood and vanilla, coming from everywhere and nowhere. The music from the box started playing. Rose petals began to fall from the ceiling, white, perfect, countless. Livia smiled at her reflection in the mirror, but it wasn't just her face that smiled back. There were 27 faces, 27 women, 27 guardians. His eyes changed color, becoming the same dark red as the stains on the floor. She adjusted the documents in her bag, all of which were perfectly forged. Her new name, Dr. Livia Santos, your new identity, your new mission. In the suitcase, he had brought 27 teddy bears, all new, all with the same device in their bellies, all waiting for their new owners. At Santa Rosa Hospital, 27 girls had begun to have the same dream, about an apartment with walls that breathed, about women who observed them through mirrors, about roses, perfume and music. And each night, in their dreams, they counted the steps to the bathroom. 27. Always 27. The perfume was still in the air when Livia stepped onto the cold bathroom floor, sandalwood and vanilla. The steam from the shower slowly dissipated on the fogged mirror, revealing a word that she had written herself, but in a handwriting that was not hers. Now you know. Can you still smell it? The perfume is still in the air, but now you can smell it too, right? Sandalwood and vanilla. That combination that you never use, but that appears in your house on the quietest nights. That smell you smelled while reading this story, even though you knew it was impossible. How many steps separate your bathroom door? Have you already told? Check now. Is it 27? Have you noticed the words that appear on the mirror when you take a hot shower? Do you keep any childhood bears that you can't bring yourself to throw away? We recognize ours. Right now, as you read this, there are eyes watching you through the cracks in the walls. There are ears listening to your breathing. There are guardians waiting for you. Comment perfume is in the air if you also feel this presence now. Share with 3 people who need to be awakened to this truth. Turn off the lights tonight. Count your steps. Look for messages in the mirrors. You always knew you weren't alone. You were always part of it. She has always been one of our guardians.